cars. Before the driver takes a trip, and he must go through a breathalyzer. And the breathalyzer will be connected to a car. If it sends, the car won't start. And after certain kilometers or after, he must do it again. And the camera system in our cars as well, so that we are able to monitor that they do the right thing. And we are accelerating the rollout of Santaco Recruitment Agency. Is necessary in employment standards, safety and compliance, because we need to know who's driving our cars as national. So we are busy coming up with the data from associations, regions, provinces, so that we are responsible. Sustained joint vehicles and undermine a fair transport operation environment. Their growth is well-intentioned that risk escalating into regrettable incidents of violence, and these have to be quelled before they gain prominence. And we are saying thank you to the law enforcement. We've seen the action that they've taken in the province of Limpopo, where some of the patrollers in our name were arrested. And we applaud that, because we are saying this industry, we need to do away with the same name that says taxi violence. We are a taxi business. We don't want that same name that says violence again in our history. We are saying criminal activity arise, it must be addressed through established legal processes. No members or in our industry must take the law into their own hands. The taxi industry, Minister, members of the media, colleagues, remains a proud and essential transporter of South Africa's community in public. We reaffirm our commitment to working sector and also to look at the road safety as well, and to protect legitimate operators and build a safe, fair and sustainable transport system for all law-abiding South African transport businesses. We are busy, Minister, doing back to school. We are checking vehicles that are doing scholar transport as well to make sure that they are legal, but as much as we see gaps, we will engage with the law enforcement to take action. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you so much.
All right, colleagues, so that we can manage our time, I'm going to now request Ubaba Msibi to come forward and facilitate the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane, and thanks, Mongameli. So we'll take questions, colleagues. Can we try and just limit it to the topic of today? I know there is quite a temptation to go into other issues. So by show of hands, you can introduce yourself and the news outlet you represent. I see two hands this side. That will come this side. Can we just start from this side? Yes, sir. What's going on? Just speak to the mic.
Maybe you can use your rally voice.
Of course.
Good morning, Minister, and the Deputy Minister and other panel members there on the podium. Just, Minister, a quick one. We know, of course, that a 5% decrease is commendable, given what we've seen in the previous years. But one death is one too many on South Africa's roads. I mean, are you concerned, Minister, that we're still seeing, quite a lot of people? 1,400 is also quite, a number of people that have died on the country's roads. And what is really behind these deaths? Is it the failure of, law enforcement visibility? Is it the failure of campaigns, or is it just driver behavior that is leading to these deaths on the roads? And is it time to change strategy, perhaps, and look at other ways in which law enforcement can then be heightened during this time of the year? And just to the MEC for Gauteng, are you concerned, MEC, that again Gauteng is among those provinces that have been listed in the red when it comes to the number of people that have died on the province's road? What needs to change in Gauteng? And just to Santaco, you speak about when is that going to be? Because we know that taxis are responsible for a majority of deaths in one single crash. So when you speak of those breathalyzers, when exactly, what is the timeline that you're looking to ensure that you have this, as one of the measures to try and prevent this? Thank you.
Your question bundles have depleted so many questions. So we'll take the one next to you. Yes. Yes, yes. You can use the same mic.
Okay, Valet Lepteto for SABC News. Minister, in your address you mentioned that part of the reason for majority of the road fatalities has been drunken driving, human behavior, as well as other, reckless driving and driving in a manner that endangers road users. At what point do we look at measures such as infrastructure as being possibly responsible for some of the fatalities, the road network, the potholes on the road, as well as the fact that some roads are still just one lane, and we hear that in the taxi industry there were head-on collisions and so on. There are roads where it's still very difficult and unsafe to overtake. What are we doing in order to ensure that the road infrastructure and the road network is of good standard, and that there is potholes, perhaps? And with regards to the this is to the NEC for Johannesburg, rather for Gauteng. MEC, with regards to pedestrian deaths, and the homeless being responsible majority of the deaths in Johannesburg, what are we doing to ensure that we are able to close off the highways and many roads from people crossing and jaywalking on the highways? And I think for now that's it.
Thank you so much. I'll take the last one right at the back. I'll come to you, that's it. And here.
Good morning, ministers, MECs, and the rest of the leadership. Writing here from Netwerk 24. My first question would be, is it then a misconception, because I see only 17% of the road fatalities or crashes have a truck involved? Is it a misconception that there are still too many trucks on the road? And perhaps just some clarity on that. And also, Minister, is it perhaps time to look at the licensing and have a more intensive process when it comes to that? Is it perhaps too easy to get a driver's license in the country? I hope I'm making sense for that question. And then just with regards to air travel, I know there were South Africans that took to social media that said air travel was way too expensive, or is way too expensive. Is that a possible solution? And what is being done to make it more affordable for South Africans? Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Minister. Over to you. And MEC, we'll Vive now. But we'll start with the Minister. Okay.
Colleagues, thank you very much for the questions. So let me start off and say that I am deeply concerned about the road death toll. And while it's important that the statistics are moving in the right direction, because it gives us hope that with increased enforcement and increased public education, we can reduce the road death toll, I'm very clear that this death toll is way, way too high. And that is why we are introducing a new measure, and that measure is to prevent any form of drinking and driving. Because all scientific evidence indicates that alcohol intake diminishes concentration. The reason why we explained that 40% of accidents occurred between the 15th and the 28th of December is because those accidents did not occur on our national highways. They occurred on back routes. They involved private vehicles in the evenings. And those factors tell us that these one can be that one is traveling far, far too fast, or one is driving under the influence of alcohol. 20% of accidents are caused by what we call environmental factors. Over this festive season, the major environmental factor was heavy rain. And I think that we are, even at this moment in Limpopo and also in Mpumalanga, continuing to see extreme weather phenomena that unfortunately are likely to cause accidents, because heavy rain decreases visibility, it makes the road more slippery. Indeed, road condition does play a part in these 20% of factors, and you would be correct when you say that we do have roads in our country that are narrow and do not have shoulders. So if somebody overtakes on a blind rise, you would know that SANRAL is involved in major road construction across the country on all of our national roads. And part of what that road construction involves is building overtaking lanes on hills, removing dangerous curves on roads, and trying to improve the safety of road conditions. And indeed, I am sure that amongst environmental factors, although I have no statistics, you would find that potholes could cause a problem because they could lead to a blowout, a tire failure on a vehicle, which could then cause a vehicle to veer across the road into the oncoming traffic. But it's very important that we understand that the fundamental cause of road accidents on our roads is not infrastructure. It is human behavior. And it is the human behavior that we have to change through consistent education, but also eating, drinking, and driving altogether. Brayton, the statistic I gave was that in the festive season crashes, only 7% of the accidents were with trucks. The majority of accidents were with private vehicles and light delivery vehicles. And we know that light delivery vehicles includes bakkies and panel vans, which in many instances are being used for private transport means. I think that it is a matter of public record that we are working on a rail system so that we can move both passengers and freight back onto the rail system. That is a necessity in any modern economy, that the backbone of your transport network must be rail. But there will always be a role for trucking, there will always be a role for buses, there will always be a role for taxis, because the last mile cannot be covered by a rail system. The last mile and the first mile can never be covered by a rail system. So I don't know how many trucks is too many trucks. It's a bit like how long is a piece of string. But I think where we have a meeting of minds is that the rail system must be the backbone of the movement of people and goods. Our rail system has been in a shocking condition for many years, and we're in the process of fixing it currently, so that we can move back towards that system, which I think is preferable. On the licensing of drivers, I don't think that there's a problem with the actual process of licensing, but we do know that there is corruption within the licensing system. And you would have heard that, and I don't want to get into this matter in this meeting, but you would have heard that we are developing closer relationships with Home Affairs so that we can have less cheating and greater integrity in our driver's license system. I don't want to comment on airways in this meeting. Thank you.
I think Minister answered all the questions.
Okay.
But I'll just emphasize on the jaywalkers. I think one challenges we have on jaywalking is around N12. And the hit and runs happens at night. And our investigation is that people cross from the other side of the settlements next to the highway into the other side to go to a tavern. And when it happens, and we'll do our best, but like we say, it starts with you. It starts with an individual to making that decision. I mean, how do you travel in the wee hours and overloaded, drunk, and now with challenges of not having breadwinners, because surely those are still economically active individuals that now are needed to come and assist families, not only their families, but for us as a country. We will continue with the campaigns. We're doing our best to make sure that our road infrastructure is intact. Part of what we did as Gauteng and its own municipalities, when we were reflecting on road safety, we also brought in the road maintenance teams in municipalities, and as well as we are all getting there. We doing data collection on a daily basis. We, like I said, we plan together and execute together. We work closely with our law enforcement agencies in both municipalities and at the provincial level. So it's an integrated approach that we are trying. We'll continue with that. It's not easy because we don't have enough resources, but we are doing our best to make sure that our road infrastructure is up to standard and it's able to assist to move people from one point to another. Thank you very much.
Mongameli. Emathabile uvive with your online, I'm coming to you. Mongameli.
Thank you. Mine is very simple. The breathalyzer is immediately, the action is immediately. What we're going to start, because to install on all vehicles, it's a lengthy process. We'll be starting at the ranks with our marshals, of course, in collaboration with our associations. But our target is long distance operators for now, especially for the Easter holidays that we are going through now. So that's it. But the breathalyzer, we are done. It's just a process of implementation. So we are starting immediately.
Thank you. We have a question from Provincial Trends representing IES News. He just needs clarity on what period is the road statistics covering. What's the beginning date and the end date? And also, can he please get the number of pedestrians there? Another question is from Trick, representing Fleetwash. Is there a segmentation of crashes involving trucks and perhaps detailed causes of the crashes so that lessons can be learned to avoid similar crashes in the future? Also, if the accident report by qualified accident investigators is only implemented for crashes involving 5 or more killed or a VIP. These reports contain a valuable lesson, but they are never released. Is there any way that this crash investigation will be documented, not only in terms of the numbers, but in terms of what can be learned? That is all.
Okay. Can we? There's more. Okay. There's more. You go ahead.
Thank you very much, Minister. From Counties. Minister, my question has to do with the overloading of buses. We are approaching Easter season. We do know that we will have those buses once again. What's the plan in place to address that, Minister? Thank you.
Okay. I'll take you, sir.
Oh.
If you can just introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Hawaiian Oleo from UFM and Youth News. Apologies, I have quite a number of them.
No. Two.
You can do one on one.
Then you can come back.
Let's start with the categories of drivers. You know, I'll pay them. There's foreign drivers, especially those who are driving heavy-duty vehicles. Are we satisfied as the department that they know what to do, they know what the sign means when they see a road sign here in South Africa? Those who are carrying licenses from elsewhere, the same could be asked about these Uber Eats guys. I'm sure if you drive around, you see them, they're all over the place. They get knocked down all the time, and one gets a sense that they don't always know how to interpret the things. And similarly, with our local people, you see a lot of learner drivers on busy roads, on the fast lane, carrying an entire family. Do you perhaps have a message for families that put so much responsibility on newly graduated drivers to say, take us to a wedding somewhere? And finally, the taxi industry, I noted the comment, but Mr. Zabe, throughout the festive, there's been all manner of new targets being attacked by these taxi patrollers. Now we are told in Mafigan that people who live close to illegal sites can walk there, that they are being picked up forcefully and forced to take a taxi for a trip that for their own saving efforts they prefer to walk. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Some of the questions we'll address on the one-on-one interviews, and we will take the responses now, and then we'll come back for the last set and make an assessment. But we limit the questions. So we'll take the responses, and then we come back to you, and online as well, and then we make an assessment. Minister?
So, in response to EWN, we are releasing 2 sets of statistics today. The first set of statistics is for the period from 1 December until 14th of January. 11th of December, sorry, 11 January, yeah. 1 December to 11 January. That's the first statistics. The second set of statistics is the annual statistics for 2025. From January to the end of, from the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2025. That's the second set of statistics. In terms of the segmentation of accidents involving trucks, what we said was that incidents during the festive season were caused by trucks. Now, you are correct when you say that our accident investigations give us very important lessons. And you would have heard me, I can say with confidence that human error is responsible. I can say with confidence the times when accidents occur. I can say with confidence the causes of accidents, the number of different kinds of vehicles. That is all information that we pick up from our investigation of accidents. You would understand that most of those reports are subject to court, because in most cases those accidents have culpable homicide cases against them. So they would be used in court proceedings, and obviously court proceedings are public. But we would obviously not be in a position to make those results, those investigations public when there are court proceedings pending. And you would understand that many of these court proceedings where culpable homicide is involved go on over several years. But the information that we are releasing is information that we get from a range of sources, including our major accident reports. And I think what we are trying to show you is that we're not dreaming up solutions. we are engaged in an evidence-led process. And that evidence comes from the wealth of information that the RTMC is collecting and processing to guide all of our interventions. You know, I think that with regard to drivers, whether they're drivers of trucks, drivers of Ubers, and so on, the key issue is whether those are legal. Because you would understand that anybody who drives a public transport vehicle must have a PDP license. And a PDP license is a license which is much stricter than the kind of license that you or I would have. And it's a license that has to be renewed every 2 years. We agree that the e-hailing industry requires regulation. That's why we introduced regulation last year. So we're not going to have a situation where anybody can do anything. That is why we have introduced the regulations last year. I'm not an expert on whether a learner driver is allowed to carry a passenger, but I'm sure my officials will advise you on that matter. But just because a car has an L on the back doesn't mean the person who's driving it is a learner driver. It just means that that vehicle is used for training somebody who's learning to drive. When it comes to the issue of overloading of buses, we had a major crackdown following that terrible incident that occurred at the beginning of October, where we found 91 passengers on a 60-seater bus. And what I didn't say, but I can share with you, is that much of our law enforcement actually happened at the points of departure. So at the bus depots, I think the president of Santakos talked about the operations we had at taxi depots. And the purpose of those operations was to prevent overloading, both of people and goods, because these trailers are a major issue. The other thing we spent a lot of time working on in November was the roadworthiness of foreign transport operators, bus fleets. I can share with you that at Beitbridge, we were unloading buses that were trying South Africa because they were overloaded, and we were preventing buses from entering that were not in a roadworthy condition. The Limpopo authorities did a wonderful job on the N1. They really did a wonderful job. And part of what they did was to actively check buses, because one of the phenomena that we've picked up is that we're 60 when we leave the rank, but then we go somewhere and we do something. And it is those somewheres and something that we were catching on the N1. So that we shouldn't have a repeat of that terrible accident that happened outside of Makado. And one of the issues that I have asked RTMC and the CBRI, the Cross-Border Transport Authority, is do we have repeat offenders? Because if we do, we're going to have to take some tough decisions here. We can't have people operating in our country, foreign operators, operate to continually break the law. So that is something that I will be following up on with RTMC and with CBRI. Who are the repeat offenders? Because we're not going to allow this kind of thing to happen anymore. Thank you very much.
Issue of patrollers, I think it has been long coming up to Santaco that the others, they call it patrollers, the squad. What we are coming up with is that our associations are going to start to register the so-called patrollers because we want to change them to become Tlokomela. And so that, but we need to know, like you are saying in Mafikeng, who in Mafikeng, why is he doing that? So sometimes because we don't have that track record, so we are coming up with a database to know the cars, who's driving that car, which association owns that car. So that's where we can keep this thing, so that when problems comes, we know exactly where to go as Santaco. Thank you.
Thanks, President. I can confirm this is going to be the last set of questions. We've come to 11 o'clock, so we'll take your hand. Roy, you haven't said anything. We'll take your hand. Any other hand? The special dispensation doesn't work. You can go ahead.
Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
My name is Howard Nell. I'm from the Institute for Driver Safety. I'd like to first of all commend you for the approach taken and for the drop in statistics. I also note with great pride your passion to reduce fatalities, injuries on our road. I agree absolutely, and through our research, human behavior is the #1 contributor to accidents. The awareness, attitude and courtesy in our country is lacking. So, is there going to be perhaps a greater emphasis on teaching, training people, perhaps with defensive driver training, with behavior change management, or something like that? There's also the old adage, it's easier to catch a fly with honey than with vinegar. I think that there are some wonderful training courses that should be utilized, the other awareness programs, and is this something that the department is looking at?
Thank you so much. Any other hand? Batabi, online.
Diana from David Dispatch newspaper is asking if you can get a breakdown of fatalities and crashes for the Eastern Cape province. Clement, representing AFP News Agency, are there figures for motorcycle riders' casualties with a segmentation for each motorcycle category?
No.
Simon Majalibodu, representing IOL. There appears to be a trend of buses being impounded in Limpopo, such as Zimbabwe and Malawi. Is the minister concerned about this, and what measures are being planned to address the issues? How many overloaded buses were impounded in the festive season traveling to other countries?
Thank you so much.
All of those, you should provide the concrete information.
It's in the report.
It is in the report, so we shall do so. There is that question. I don't know, Minister, if you want to take that. There was a comment there was a comment and a question. And then I'm not coming back. I'll hand over to the Deputy Minister. I think it brings us to the end. So Tseho, where is Tseho? Tseho is there for one-on-ones. Please, if you can just arrange with him so that there is order. So after the Deputy Minister is closed, we'll take the one-on-ones. The cameras can remain where they are. And then we'll take one-on-ones. Thank you, Minister. Deputy Minister, take over.
Howard, thank you very much for your comments. I absolutely agree with you that there are a range of excellent courses. I think that what we should do is make links between your association and Santaco, Saboa, the Trucking Association, because and other associations, even the e-hailing industry, that have mass drivers. Because I think that it's obviously very important that industry should make sure that their drivers are of the highest standard. I think that all citizens My own view is if you drive in South Africa, a defensive driving course is a very good idea. And I would urge all citizens to take one. I think it could really save your lives. Obviously, we have, what was it? How many million people in this country? 65 million people in this country, of whom at least half are adults. We don't have the money to put everybody through those courses. But we definitely would urge organized business in the logistics sector to make use of them. And I'm sure through your good offices, this information can be made more widely available to individual citizens and also to transport associations. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, that does bring us to the end. I just have 3.5 things to say. Minister, I know that you thanked all of us and the MECs. I think it's only proper that we also extend our own appreciation and thanks to you for the leadership that you have provided. I always, in corners, say she's a slave driver, but I've told you that before as well. And I think don't stop, Minister, even if it means us sacrificing a lot of the time, particularly during the difficult periods where most people expect us to be home, but you keep us actually working. So I think we want to extend our own appreciation and thanks to you as well for the leadership that you are providing. Secondly, without any bias, we dispatched 800 national traffic police during this festive season throughout the country. It was a huge sacrifice on them to be away from home. I just want to thank the National Traffic Police for being away from home for this long duration, and all the traffic law enforcement officers as well for the hard work that they have done. And then lastly, Minister, in the roadblocks that we did and the operations that we attended, I think it is important as we now transition to scholar transport focus to urge parents exercise maximum discipline in their vehicles around children. Children are not being put in seat belts, they're not being put in car seats. The long-term trauma that children suffer, particularly head injuries, when these crashes occur, is of fundamental concern to all of us. So there's a responsibility that is incumbent on parents and guardians in the vehicles to ensure that children are actually fastened in. I know that when you engage with them, they say, yeah, but they don't like it. It's an important inconvenience for long-term safety. Decision to the scholar transport focus in all the work that we will be doing. Colleagues, I want to extend the appreciation of Minister Creecy, the department, all our entities, to all of you for being here this morning for this briefing, and we will now go to the one-on-ones. And thanks to the media for being an able and active partner for us in communicating our messages throughout the festive season and throughout the year. Don't stop, add on even with the free coverage. Just as part of your